What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Plain Jane Cars, and this is a Plain Jane Cars podcast. I got a special guest with me this week, Mr. Keith Neal. I appreciate you from coming on, Keith.
Oh, thanks, Charles. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the podcast.
What an honor.
Oh, wow. It's an honor. As you can hear, Keith is from across the pond, but he's uniquely American. He has a foot on each continent. He's a cool guy. We worked together. Give you a little background story. Keith was one of the first people I met when I moved to Houston, Texas. And he actually took his time to take me under his wing. So often you've heard me in multiple podcasts and videos refer to Keith. This is Keith. This is my mentor. So he's helped me out professionally and personally. But we have a shared love for cars.
We do.
We really do. Now, I don't know if you remember a story. I'm going to tell a quick story and we can kind of get into the crux of the show. A few years, this is probably 12 years ago, we both worked at the former employer. Good vibes, good feelings for all those people back there. But we had an asset, or they owned an asset in the Bahamian Islands on Freeport. And we were both there. We were traveling, just visiting, seeing people, had a couple projects going on. And interestingly enough, Keith and I had both just bought new cars. You remember this?
Yeah.
So we're flying back. We're heading back to the airport to fly back to the U.S. I think we had a stop in Miami or Fort Lauderdale and on to Houston. And we were sitting eating in the Miami or Fort Lauderdale. I can't remember which airport it was. And we were both talking about excited just about our drive home in our new cars.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yes.
I remember when I first moved to Houston, you had an E90
That's
330 BMW, right?
330i. Yeah.
That was such a cool car.
Really nice car.
Really nice car. And it was bulletproof. How many miles did you put on that thing?
Actually, I used that daily commute. Probably 50, 60,000 miles.
Are you serious? And no major issues either, right?
Richmond Avenue. It succumbed to Richmond Avenue eventually. Front suspension broke.
Oh, so Richmond Avenue in Houston is notorious for massive potholes. It's like driving on Mars. I think they've improved it over the years, but back then it was horrifying.
Yeah.
Richmond and Westheimer, it'll kill your car.
Yes.
It will.
Yeah, I had no idea because it was a hard ride.
Yeah.
Took it in for a state inspection. Guy calls me around the front. He says, you've got 2 notches in your front tires. I said, what? On the inside. He said, I've never seen anything like this. About an inch deep.
Really?
And it was where the suspension had collapsed and the tires were rubbing on the frame.
No, and it was still drivable.
Yes. I didn't notice any difference.
That's crazy.
Because it's such a hard suspension.
It is. It's such a sport suspension anyway. It rides rough anyway.
Those run flats.
Yeah.
Those run flats, they were
so rough.
That was like running on solid tire, solid tires without no air.
Oh, it's so rough. And the tire noise that they would make too. Oh, when they would go bad, it sounds like you're driving a truck.
First, when I went and bought that car, the guy said, jump it. I'll drive, you jump it. We went down the road. Down 69, 135 mile an hour.
Are you serious?
I said, I'll take it.
He's like, you're done. Done. Ring me up. They do that with BMW. BMW dealerships are famous for here. I had an E60 not too long after, I think I was really influenced by your 330, but I had an E60. All of us on the team went through a phase of just import German cars. Yeah. So I got a 550 BMW, and I loved that car. Yeah. It was one of the most beautiful, in my opinion, cars of the Chris Bangle era. Like there's some people say, they got the Bangle butt, and some of them don't look that. I thought that 550 was sharp. Yeah. And I love the M5 of that generation too.
Yeah.
Both of them with the V10.
No,
they're good cars.
They were.
And I think they've aged well too. But let's learn a little bit about your car story. That's what I like to say. I want to hear people's car story and their car history. Gotta tell us, what was your, and first, what part of London are you from?
Southeast suburbs.
Okay.
So, Sidcup, Bexley Heath, places like those kind of names.
Y'all better be listening to the podcast. We trying to get into Britain, man. We want to get on the island. What was your first car?
I'll give you my first UK car.
Okay.
I'll give you my first US car.
Perfect.
Yeah, first UK car was a Ford Capri.
Ford Capri. No way.
2 litre, 4-cylinder, 2-door, gold.
Really?
I think they did sell them here in the US.
They did. So
twin headlights.
So here's a funny thing, Keith. Hopefully you guys have watched the podcast. You listen to or watch the podcast. You watch on YouTube, listen to it on all the podcast platforms. We had a guest on last week, Joel. And we did an episode on what cars should OEMs or manufacturers bring back that were discontinued. He had some, I said, esoteric picks. You know what his first pick was? Ford Capri.
Really?
In the UK.
Really?
He said put the 1.5 in the base model and put a 2-liter. He said everything you just described. So if you haven't listened to that podcast, go back and listen to it. Here's proof Joel knows what he's talking about. Awesome. What year was it? What year was
1980.
1980 Capri with the 2. So how much was it? Because insurance is notoriously expensive. So I have a 2-liter Ford Capri, and they had to be expensive to insure.
I mean, I remember it's like £725, which
what?
I think
is that a year or every 6 months?
£30 a month back then. So it was a lot of money. Things like tires and stuff I couldn't.
Yeah.
But funny story, I only had it about 3-4 months, and lesson to me was, I thought, you want to get the oil change, you want to wax it, change the spark plugs. I dropped the cap. I took all the spark plugs out one go, dropped the cap from the spark plug. It went in the bore.
No.
Dad said, don't worry about it. Turn it over, it'll blow out.
It'll blow out, right?
It didn't blow out.
Stayed in there.
Stayed in there. So the car, so bang, 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 like one of the main bearings. Anyway, it sat in front of my parents' house for about 6 months because they're aluminum, so you can't get them out with a magnet. So we had to take the whole top of the engine off. 2-day job for us. And to get that little piece out.
Yeah.
So I had it for about 2 months.
It sat for 6 months.
Sat for 6 months.
That's too funny.
Yeah, but great car.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So first U.S. car.
First U.S. car. Welcome to the U.S. So
that's right.
The company, I come over here, moved to Connecticut.
So this is a fleet vehicle, essentially, right?
Yeah, they say, single man, we'll give you a Mercury Cougar.
What year Cougar is this? Hold on now.
I want to say it was quite old. It seemed quite old. 1990.
We know what the Cougar looks like from that era. So the Thunderbird and the Cougar were the same thing.
2-door.
Yeah, 2-door.
Like a wedge.
That's right.
Deal.
That's it. Yeah. We spoke about that car on a previous podcast too.
3.8 litre.
That's a 3.8. That's right. They came with supercharged. That generation, if you had the top of the line, that was the Thunder Chicken. It came with a supercharger.
So a lot more powerful than Capri, which was, Capri was 100 horsepower, something like that. Much more powerful. But like driving a 4-post to bed. It's like a
sleigh bed, right?
Like king bed. Yeah, it's king size bed.
So let me ask you this. I mean, you have that unique experience of European cars in general, right? We know, some of us may know the roads are a little bit smaller over there. The economy is different because the cost of fuel is quite a bit different in the U.S. What are some key differences that you saw between growing up, learning how to drive in the UK, and then coming to the U.S.? What is the experience? I know there's some cliches out there, but we get to hear firsthand. What are your experiences?
No, there's a lot, and I won't try and keep. So one couple of things. Obviously, the cars. This has changed now here, but the cars used to handle a lot differently. Much harder ride. Much harder.
Oh, you're talking about the UK, right?
Yeah, UK.
Okay, UK cars. I got you.
UK versus US.
Okay.
Much harder ride, much higher revving, but less torque.
Sure.
Horsepower.
Sure.
Roads lot narrow, lot twistier, windier. But I think those are the cars over there. We never had all. They weren't loaded like we had. I'd never seen leather seats.
Well, base model cars in the U.S. come with leather seats,
no
right?
AC, no air conditioning. Nobody had air conditioning.
So I watched these few guys over in the UK. They call it aircon.
Yeah.
And sat nav, right? So no aircon.
No aircon.
What?
No.
Was it optional though? Like, could you opt in for aircon? It was just like a normal thing.
I think they have it now, but not
back then.
Not when I was. No, it was
really?
you open the window or turn the fan up. You do not have air conditioning.
We used to call that 255 when I was a kid, right? You wanted some AC, roll down the windows, 2 windows at 55 miles an hour. That was your aircon.
Everything was cloth.
Yes.
And that was about it. Maybe you got a radio. Nothing, electrical aerial.
Yeah. Power windows.
No, not power windows.
Power seats.
No memory, anything.
So the funny thing about that now, and I have some friends that I adore, but they are car nerds. Those cars are the most valuable cars now, especially if they're like BMWs or Mercedes. They call them stripper cars.
Yeah.
So the cars with slick top, so it didn't come with a moonroof or sunroof. It didn't come with a radio. It comes with wind-up windows. Those are like the most desirable specs now. It's interesting because you have less electrical issues, and they're more rare because none of them really made it to the U.S. So if a U.S. person spec'd it that way, it's worth way more money.
Yeah.
One thing I did like about European cars too, sorry to cut you off, is you guys don't have all the safety rules, some of the stupid safety rules I think that we have. So everybody here with BMWs try to get the European bumpers because you don't have the red and yellow reflectors and all that kind of good stuff. It just looks cooler and cleaner.
Yeah.
Like the European version of U.S. domestic cars.
A couple of other things that sort of hit me as soon as I come over, and I'm on the road now and I'm driving. Obviously, other side of the road, drive much slower here. Than,
really?
Yeah, if you're in the fast lane in London, you better be doing a minimum of 85.
Wow.
90,
wow.
Even though the limit's 70.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I never heard. They said you need to get your tyres rotated. I'm thinking that's a con. Getting your tyres rotated?
It is a con, right?
I never heard of getting tyres rotated because I don't know. And then we all used to do our own oil changes, and going somewhere where they did an oil change in 15 minutes, those kind of places didn't exist. Now I think about, oh man, if I'd had that idea and taken that back,
could you imagine?
Made a fortune.
Could you imagine?
But you either, if you had the money, you took it to a dealer, or you did it yourself. Nobody. There weren't these 15-minute in and out places like.
There's no Jiffy Lube on the island.
Yeah, no Jiffy Lube like we have here.
Yeah,
it was.
You do it yourself.
Yeah, so
I think that's one thing that's interesting. Not that this is about the differences between countries, but it is in a way. The U.S. is really about convenience, and I think that's what you're touching on. The comfortability of the car, the power windows, power brakes, power steering, the numbness in the steering. Americans like to be comfortable.
No, that's true.
We want it the easy way.
There is an argument the Brits put up with too much. They
I'm
don't
sure.
complain enough. That is said sometimes, and I think maybe you see that in certain things.
I think it is borne out in the services that you see offered and all the things that come with that, right? It's what they say, it's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease, right?
Correct.
The more noise you make, the more you get.
Exactly.
That's interesting, man. That's interesting. To hear the differences between the two. So how did things go? How did you find yourself adjusting to driving that Mercury Cougar in the United States of America on our 8-lane wide road highways?
Yeah, no, you the test was kind of non-existent. You got to take a driving test.
Sure.
Versus I don't know if any
it's
listeners ever done the UK test.
It's a road test in the UK, right?
Oh man, I mean it is a road test. It's a written test. I mean it is. The chances of passing first time are like single-digit percentages.
Wow.
I come here and the guy's like, "Oh, I know you're from the UK. I don't need to test you. Drive me around the back of the building, and I want to talk about my family that live in Birmingham."
Are you serious?
I said, "Does that mean I'm part?" Yeah, you're passed. So it wasn't really.
Yeah.
I didn't take any lessons or anything. I was given my license, and you sort of just get out there. I mean, But here it's different, right? I mean, the UK, the highways are maybe 3-lane. Now here there's 5, 6, 7, 8 lanes. You just got to kind of figure it out. Over there, the roads are. They say they're safer, but I think they sort of baby you a little bit. They'll give you like 7 signs that your turning's coming up. Whereas here, we treat a bit more like adult. You get 2 or 3 chances and you miss.
Maybe, yeah. Quarter mile, you better get over.
I think you just kind of get used to it.
Okay.
But then again, a Mercury Cougar is not the kind of car I can push around. I'm not going to be doing 90 miles an hour in it because I don't feel safe. Even though it's got an airbag. What's an airbag?
Yeah, had an driver's side airbag, right? But you're still driving a couch.
I'm driving along in a couch.
But let me tell you something. Let me ask something. These might be a little bit of cliche for everybody, but I do find it interesting. Was there any adjustment going from like the metric system to Imperial? Like, was it difficult going from liters to gallons because you're buying your fuel, petrol, and liters? You come in here, you're buying gas in gallons. You're doing kilometers on your speedometer, right? Yeah. And then you come into miles per hour. Was there adjustment, or was it kind of intuitive?
No, not really. No. I don't remember. You just kind of get. I did.
Just get on.
Get on with it. Don't you? What are you going? You just got to get on with it.
You figure it out.
And you know, become part of society, get on with life.
That's
and,
right.
Move on and enjoy this wonderful country.
Become an American, right?
Yeah.
You get Americanized pretty quickly.
Oh, for sure.
Now, I'll have to say, it happened to both Keith and I. I think I'm a city kid, as you guys know. When I moved to Texas, I always loved small cars. My dad always had we were fortunate enough he had a family car. My mom always had a family car, but he always had something that was, he's a tinkerer. So he always had like a coupe that was cool. He had a bunch of Volkswagen Beetles, Super Beetles, and then he went into the Fiero. I don't know if you remember the Pontiac Fiero, a little two-seater car. He just loved that kind of stuff.
I know that one.
So from that, I'm influenced by it, and I always had a smaller, like having a smaller car, and I love the European stuff. That's what I grew up around. And not too long ago, we had a storm here called Harvey. And in my little M4, and my wife had a Mazda CX-9, very practical little SUV, CUV. We tried to leave. And we would suddenly realize we were on an island. And I thought about you as I began to shop for my truck. Because of our team when we were together at our old employer, we were probably the only ones who were like, I'll never have a truck.
Yeah.
Never have a truck.
No.
But you have an F-150. I remember you bought your F-150.
I know I'd have an F-250.
You would.
If the market wasn't so ridiculous.
You would. I know you would.
Yeah.
You love your truck, don't you?
Yes. I love big.
Yes.
I love big. I love the horsepower.
Oh.
I love the torque.
Yes.
And it's robust. I don't worry about it.
No.
I don't care about a ding or a scratch.
You aim for potholes. I mean, I don't even think about the way you had to drive your BMW, right? Compared to how you drive your F-150, complete different experience. And it stands up to it. It stands up to it. It's amazing.
Yeah, you know, basically tires, battery, and an oil change.
Maybe,
And
yes.
I stuck a Cayenne filter on it, so don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Air filter. That's all I do.
And you're good to go.
And it just keeps on going. And that's what I love. As like you say, you don't hit a pothole, you don't know, oh God,
you don't panic.
Much is that?
How much is that going to cost?
What's that just done to my alignment?
That's $1,700. I can feel it.
Nothing to your alignment.
No. I love that.
Keep going.
I tell people, if they listen, I say this in proper English on purpose, I will never not have a truck. I mean, this experience of owning my Ram 2500, I've had it for 4 years now, and still, even the ride down to the studio, I smile. I just enjoy. I get it. I always say I'm a Texan. It made me think about what you say. You just get on. Like, you see the value in why certain cultures live the way they do, and I'm like, yeah, I assimilated. I am a Texan.
It's utility as well.
So
they
practical.
lift stuff. You can bring stuff home. I'm not saying, it's not necessarily a car you take your wife out for dinner on a Saturday
Absolutely
night.
not. Right. Right.
But I think it's like, I feel like it's a good vehicle to have in your kind of part of your armory.
If you can afford it, that's what I tell people. If you're in a position to be able to have one, I have people say, "Oh, that's not practical. It's not practical." I'm like, ask the people that ask me every week in my church, "Can I borrow your truck?" Like, oh, it's practical, right? Everybody, oh, can your seats fold flat? I had someone ask me the other day because we needed to transport some stuff for an event we're having. It made me chuckle. It's like every time I hear somebody say, that truck isn't practical, I was like, yeah, ask the people that need a couch moved or need something towed or mulch.
Go get me 20 bags of mulch.
Yeah. Not a thought. You don't think you pull up, back up, they load it in there, you go home, right? I love having my truck. So what else is in the garage right now?
We have a Honda Pilot.
Okay.
Wife.
Is that what Chrissy's driving?
Yep.
Okay.
Huge, big fan of Honda.
Yeah.
And then for the girls, I have twin girls.
Ava and Rachel.
17 years old.
I can't believe they're 17, Keith.
I know.
God. So I've been here 13 years. So you can do math of how old they were when I met you.
Yeah.
They were toddlers. They're 17. Wow. Congratulations.
So thank you. They're amazing. And they have, I can never say this right, Hyundai.
Yeah.
Venues, which are cool.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool 4-cylinder. Got every anyway. That's what's in.
You do a lot of research. Tell us how you arrived to get. This guy has a spreadsheet for those venues. I'm gonna tell you. How did you arrive to the decision to get them the venue?
Well,
it's practical, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is quite practical. We set them. Do you want something to, what I would say, decent? that
Yeah.
you want to share.
Sure.
Maybe like a couple of years old, like an Audi SUV. You want to share that.
Yeah.
Or we can get you something that's a bit lower price bracket,
But you can have your own.
nice looking. We'll get you the highest model, but you have your own. Mm-hmm. But these are like 16, 17-year-old your children going out and driving
Yeah.
in our roads.
I know it.
And you think, okay, so I do want something that's got very good safety.
Needs to be
features.
safe.
Yes.
It needs to be safe.
And they are. They're like top 3.
Beautiful. Yeah.
From a safety rating pick. So that was, but that's our garage.
Really? I think it's a cool garage. You probably think it's very practical. We have some practical cars in our house too, let me tell you. And I think most people do. Most people do. So tell us a little bit more about your car story. What got you into cars, attracted to cars? Was it motorsport at a young age? Was it an influence of somebody you were around?
Yeah. It's similar to you, Charles. My dad. We lived the end of a terrace house, and he had a little area down the side there where he used to tinker. With cars. Minis.
Really?
And so they're pretty easy to work.
They are. Everything's accessible.
998cc, front-wheel drive, and you can strip one. And I just used to go out there with him in the evening, stripping them down. Then he started getting into a sport called autocross.
Sure.
Which is pretty much cheap, sort of, you're basically a farmer leases you the field and you race.
You set up a little course and you run. Yeah.
Then that migrated to rallycross, which is half tarmac, half dirt.
Right.
Some fantastic, now there's, European competition. I think it's even over here.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But that's what we used to do. We used to build cars, and minis are actually, believe it or not, a very good rally car when it's very wet and muddy because they're front-wheel drive.
Front-wheel drive, so you have traction.
And what they used to do, there was a Mini that was uniquely made for the Italian market.
Okay.
Called a Mini Inozetek. Only came in left-hand drive. Had about another, it was a 1275cc.
A little bit bigger, bored out.
A little bit bigger.
Yeah.
Much nicer inside.
Okay.
If you ever seen the film The Italian Job.
Yes, of course. Who hasn't that loves cars?
That's the car.
Okay.
And so he used to go over Belgium, pick those up, and we started converting those, putting a roll cage in, you put a special fuel tank.
Sure.
And so, like at the age of 6 or 7, all of a sudden I'm driving.
What?
I'm driving a Mini that probably puts out 150 horsepower, up and down a field.
Wow.
Racing gearbox.
Yeah.
Weber carburetors. Yeah.
Weber's.
That's what got me into it, and just working on cars with him.
Yeah.
At the weekends, in the evening. Yeah.
It's interesting how a lot of us have our passions ignited in a similar way, right? It's almost generational. A lot of the people I've talked to, and some of the future guests you see come on, that's why I like hearing car stories. So it really shows how much we're more alike than we are different, especially, totally different country, different cultures, but our backgrounds are similar. Isn't that interesting?
No.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of things the same.
Yeah.
The size or the,
Yeah. the way it handles.
The way it handles might be differently, but ultimately the human nature.
Yeah.
It's pretty
similar, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very similar.
One of the things Keith and I were talking about, and we want our guests, you guys can't chime in. On YouTube, you can comment below if you choose to. One of the things I think is interesting, and Keith brought this up, it's actually something he mentioned, is how much cars have advanced in technology. It's made, when you think about the safety features on cars now, my wife's car and my truck, these newer cars have this like 3D view. Like you put it in reverse and it looks like there's a drone over top the car that shows everything around. It's amazing, right? It's mind blowing. All these advances that cars have made, but there's a lot of things on cars that have not changed a bit. No. Since they were introduced.
Yeah, sounds like an opportunity.
Right? The 3-point seatbelt, Volvo, right?
Yeah,
it's the same.
Yeah,
like just the fabric. I think you mentioned windshield wipers.
Windshield wipers. Nobody's done anything with those, really, have
they?
It's the same old rubbing a piece of rubber across the windshield.
You would think there is some sort of innovation that will make windshield wipers take the next leap, like braking did when carbon ceramics came out, right?
Right.
Or Tires. I mean, tires have made leaps and bounds in different compounds and going to synthetics and all that kind of stuff. We're not riding on biased plies anymore, right?
No.
But one I thought of is like just the as much as the electrical systems on the cars changed, alternators haven't. Even batteries have changed, right? We're going to some lithium-based batteries now instead of the nickel. But the alternator is charging it. Same deal. It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
How so many components, and especially when we come to engines, I think the top sides of engines and what's controls them have changed. But it's still a big air pump.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Right? Internal combustion engines is still just a big old air pump. It's all the same.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
I read the other day, it's 30,000 components going into, on average, into a modern car. But
30,000 components. I didn't know that. Wow.
It's all got to be brought together. Just still think about those things that really haven't changed.
No. It's quite a symphony, too, when you think about it, to say 30,000 components. And we're in a business of logistics and business development, all that kind of stuff. So we know what it takes to pull together some simple concepts on the, probably looking at it objectively, but it takes quite a bit of coordination.
Right.
I always think about all the supply chain that's involved in that, right? So no OEM makes an alternator. No OEM makes a windshield wiper. No OEM makes a power window switch, right? There are companies that make all those 30,000 components, and the OEM may just put it together, right? They put out these RFPs and say, we need 50,000 window switches and 5 different people. One thing that hurt, this is off topic, but pretty interesting. I just replaced my iPhone. I'm an iPhone user, and I updated the software, and suddenly it stopped working, but that's another topic. So I had to buy a new one, right? And I did a little digging, as you do, right? I was like, what's this, what's that? And I found that they have 3 different suppliers for screens.
Oh.
You want to know who iPhone's largest supplier for screens is?
No.
Displays. Shouldn't be screen. Display.
Yeah, I don't know.
Samsung.
Really?
But that's not really surprising to us, right? Like, in our business, sometimes your competitor is your customer, and sometimes it's all the same, right?
Yeah. No, it's interesting.
Pretty interesting, right?
I guess Samsung's like, well, if we don't supply them, they'll go buy it for
They're
someone
gonna buy
else, so we might as well.
And we have a business that makes displays. We just so happen to make LED displays. So, let's sell them to who cares, right? Who cares where it goes as long as we can generate margin. One of the things that I've seen this with in cars is transmissions, like the ZF, as you would say, the ZF transmission. So German transmission, that's in everything, right? And everybody is okay. Like, it's the, quietest is kept. Besides Porsche, there's not too many people that's building their own transmissions.
Yeah.
They just start. They buy them from transmission manufacturers.
Yeah, Borg Warner. I don't know if they
all the turbos.
Are they a big one still?
Yeah. Because it makes sense. They have a supply chain set up. That's how you actually make money in a car business, actually. It's doing an RFP and buying that from a supplier and not developing, doing manufacturing yourself. That could be insane. So what is on your, I like to say, vision board? If you had a kind of like a trifecta, and I don't want to limit you.
No. Well, thank you.
No budget.
I have to get my glass, because I thought you might ask me this.
Every guest has to tell me what their dream cars are.
So, if you got the space, money's no object.
No object, you got the space.
This is kind of, focusing in on what I would like to see, when I get up in the morning.
For sure.
Take my cup of tea in there.
And look at the keys hanging on the wall, right? Which one am I going to drive today?
This would be some of them.
Okay.
I think you got to have the California, the Ferrari.
Yes.
Red, of course.
California T, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Love that car.
Yes.
I don't really mind the year, probably the last 5 years, but the Porsche 911 Turbo S.
Oh, yeah. That's one for me.
Oh,
yeah.
I just got to have one of those. The Ford GT.
Which generation?
Well, again, I think relatively recently, and if you could have the full race kind of package on it.
Oh, man.
I know, not very practical.
The Carbon Series track pack, I think it's called.
Yeah, I would love that.
I think those things are going for 1, 2, 1, 3, maybe.
Yes. Yeah. No, I mean, again,
no budget. Yeah.
This is you win the lottery or something. I think you've got to have a Ford Mustang GT500.
Oh yeah.
I love those.
Excellent pick.
Love those.
Yes, that's actually a really cool car. Ford has made a really cool car.
An E-Type Jag.
What year?
That would be like 1968, 67,
Arguably the most beautiful car ever made,
Yeah.
arguably.
Yeah.
Maybe a Ferrari Dyno, but I mean,
Yeah.
up there with the 2 or 3 Mercedes-Benz. There's a few of them of that era, but I would say one of the most beautiful cars ever made.
I'm trying to do a better job of educating myself on older American cars, 70s, 80s, because I didn't grow up here with those cars on the road.
Yeah.
So I watch a lot of YouTube podcasts, stuff like listen to podcasts, people that there are some cars I really like the Corvette, the C1, in the red and white, the twin headlights.
Yeah, the twin headlights. Yeah. So the C1 and C2 are probably my favorite Corvettes. And now the C3, to me, is aging. It's a really a gorgeous car when you step back and look at it. Like, it's aged well. It really has.
I would have to have the Spider, the Alfa Romeo.
Oh,
1980s.
Yes.
The 2-door, really nice, sort of smallish.
I know. Yes. To me, it feels like the first generation Mazda Miata is like its spiritual successor. If you can imagine, like it just looked like they totally ripped off the Alfa Romeo Spider and said, "Yeah, let's just call it a MX-5 Miata or whatever." Right?
Sunday afternoon drive.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting one. I kind of like these too. I think you just have to have one of these because it's just from a Cadillac DeVille. Like 1970s, the V12.
Agree.
A friend of ours.
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah.
When one time my BMW was in the shop.
Okay.
And I needed to get home. So he called his dad, and they had a fleet of cars. And
sure.
They had a DeVille. Now this is like, 7 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, we're in the 2010s, right?
DeVille. And he said, you can take that home if you want. We got to wash it. It's a bit dusty. It hasn't been out for a few years.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. For a car, I think, that was probably close to 30 years old.
Sure.
It had everything electric,
even
self-dimming mirror.
Yeah.
But it was like driving 4 king beds.
Easily.
I wasn't sure I was going to get through the toll plaza.
You're like measuring yourself as you squeeze through.
It's on like these sort of 175 tires.
Oh, sure.
But I think it's like a 6 or 7 litre car, V12. I mean,
riding around on pizza cutters.
You got to give it notice that you want to turn left or right.
Yeah.
The understeer was unbelievable. But what a fun car. Just, have something like that, a convertible in red.
Was it?
And no, this one was green. But,
to have one. Okay, I got you.
So
dream.
That would be that. I think I'd have to have one of those as well. A nice one.
That would be cool. I like your garage, man. You cover the gambit, but one thing I saw is you like GT cars. You named a few GTs, like some Grand Tours. I'm a fan of GT cars too. I love the 911. I love the California T. I love all of the front engine Ferraris. I'm not like a mid-engine Ferrari. I mean, I am a mid-engine Ferrari fan, but that wouldn't be what I bought. I love the 812 Superfast.
Yeah.
That's more what I like. Or the TDF, F12 TDF, or the FF. That lineage of Ferraris they're pretty cool.
I've driven some of those, and friends have had them. I've not owned them, but I've driven them, and
sure.
yeah, they're amazing.
They build a good car.
They are, but yeah, I just the performance, the handling, that's important to me. Oodles of horsepower, torque.
So 2 things that surprised me.
And the smell.
Oh, yeah.
The smell of the exhaust.
Yes. The rawness of it. Yeah, I agree. 2 things that surprised me. Gaping holes in your list. Your countrymen will be disappointed.
Yeah.
4 things.
Yeah. Okay, interesting.
Let's start at the top.
Yeah.
No McLaren.
No McLaren.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I did think about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another sin.
Yeah.
No Aston.
Thought about that one as well. I like to go, a newer Aston or the old
or the
Aston.
oldest. I mean, they're beautiful lineage of
Bond kind of.
Yes, DB7. What are we talking about?
But then again, I got to cut the list somewhere.
You got to stop somewhere.
I'll be here all day,
You got to stop somewhere. Okay, one more.
That's good observation.
No Range Rover.
There's so
beautiful list. I'm just
so many British
pointing a few things out.
No, it's true. So many British people that come over here. They got to have a Range Rover. I think they're cheaper here than they are.
I'm sure they are
over in England.
I bet they are.
No, it obviously be on the list.
Got to.
But and the new ones. I think that the new one, best looking ever. And renowned for being the best, having the best ride.
Truly. And one of the best off-road. I think that you can argue the Range Rover and maybe Land Cruisers are probably two of. You can kind of look in the Middle East. It's always funny looking in the Middle East and Near East, and those cars from the 80s, those Discoveries, they're still running. Even though people say, "Oh, your Range Rovers have all these issues."
Yeah.
You never see a Range Rover in a junkyard, though.
No, that's true.
Rarely,
That's
I should
true.
say, see one in a junkyard.
But they are pretty much hand built
Yeah, they are.
in England.
Yes.
Reliability is questionable, and depreciation
Is
they're always
phenomenal.
Like 97 out of the top 100.
Yeah,
So,
that's pretty bad.
so
Yeah.
enjoy.
And Aston Martins are too, actually.
Yeah,
They depreciate pretty quickly. But
Yeah,
beautiful
but
cars.
they-
Coach built cars. They're coach built cars,
Yes,
though.
exactly.
So you got to pay for that. Pay the premium.
They design very, very beautiful cars.
All right, last one I'm gonna pick on you on. Last one.
Yeah.
No Gordon Murray. No Gordon Murray. No T33. No T50.
No.
You wouldn't do it.
No.
Okay.
No. Some of these older British guys, they always say, they always say to the girls, if you're going to date a guy that's got an old British car, you better be a good mechanic because it's very likely you're going to break
You
down.
go work on it. You have to work on it. Be comfortable sitting on the side of the road, sis.
Yes.
Because he's gonna have to work on it.
Exactly.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you got to come on.
Yeah.
You have to come back. I enjoyed this conversation, man. This was pretty fun.
Yeah, thank you.
It's pretty fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Charles. And, awesome. Appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, guys, a couple programming notes. Again, we want to thank Keith. I really appreciate him coming on. It's interesting hearing people's car stories. The more relatable to me, the cooler the story is. And I think you have a pretty relatable story despite being from London. And one of the things I wanted to say, too, is if you haven't caught up, go back and look at some of the previous episodes. This should be about our 5th or 6th episode, actually. And they have some more content coming out. We'll have Keith back on. We'll do some other. He has some really good ideas. One of my first guests that walked in with notes and said, you know what? I got some ideas. I'm like, I love it. I'm always looking for executive producers. I love creating the content. But one of the challenging things is making it entertaining and keeping you guys engaged. I have a lot of ideas, but I want to make sure I have a diverse group of ideas, right? Because I don't know it all. I don't pretend to know it all. So I appreciate your input, man. This was exciting. Look forward to having you back on. You guys, if you are listening to this on Apple, rank and review the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, comment below what you thought and what will be your list. Keep it to 3. Well, write as many as you want. What are your dream cars? What would you have in your garage? And I promised I'll reply to each comment. And the best comment will be pinned as the top comment. I appreciate you again, Keith. Thanks for coming. We appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.